leaders, members of my administration, and advocates from around Arkansas and from around the country for joining us here today. Today is our last day of fiscal session. Can't say I'm sad. I'm sure nobody else is either. Yeah, pause for that. And I'm proud to say that with our partners in the legislature, we continue to advance our promises to the people of Arkansas. Chief among them is slowing the growth of government. This year's budget grows spending by only 1.76%. That's far below the 3% we've averaged in years past and only half the current rate of inflation, showing a real cost of savings for the people of Arkansas. At the same time, we're still making critical investments in public safety and education, all of which I called for in my State of the State address just a few weeks ago. We'll put more state troopers on our roads, making sure we provide them with the resources and training they need to keep our communities safe and secure. Grant education freedom to more families than ever in Arkansas history, and pay for the highest starting teacher salaries anywhere in the nation. And we're paving the way to cut taxes in the future and eventually and responsibly phase out our state income tax to let Arkansans keep more of their hard-earned money. We also continued to shut down Chinese Communist Party influence in our state and reestablished local control over crypto mining facilities and crack down on bad actors. I want to once again thank our legislators who made these victories possible. But as proud as I am to celebrate these important wins, like most Arkansans are, frankly, I'm appalled at what is coming out of Washington. I've said before that the dividing line in this country is no longer between right and left. It's between normal and crazy. And the most recent attack on common sense came from President Biden's Department of Education and their total rewrite of Title IX. When Title IX was first written, it was 37 words long. The message was simple. Men and women deserve equal access to higher education. In the 52 years since, there have been several beneficial additions: guaranteeing equal access to college athletics, establishing due process for harassment cases, and so on. However, last month, President Biden released a reinterpretation of Title IX that comes in at an insane 459,000 words. Let that sink in. It's a document that should scare every woman and, frankly, every man in America. Title IX was created to protect women, but Biden's Title IX attempts to erase women completely. According to the rule, sex is no longer based on the commonly understood biological differences between men and women. It's based on how a person feels or their gender identity. To put it another way, Biden thinks anybody can be a woman just because they say so. As a woman, the mother of a daughter, and our state's first chief executive to give birth, thankfully not while in office, I can't think of anything more offensive or dismissive of the very real, very scientific traits that all women share and that no man does. I find myself asking, where are all the so-called feminists? Women fought for so long to have equal access to sports and higher education. Are we really going to throw that all away in the name of political correctness? Walk down any street in Arkansas, from Little Rock to Mountain Home, and ask someone the difference between a man and a woman. You will probably get a pretty straightforward answer. But apparently, our leaders in Washington can't tell the difference anymore. It would be laughable if it weren't so threatening. That's because the rule doesn't change just language on a paper. It could have a very real impact on Arkansas colleges and universities. If Biden gets his way, female college students will shower and change next to male college students. Referring to someone using biologically correct pronouns will get you hauled in front of a disciplinary board for harassment. And scholarships, previously reserved for women, will now be open to anyone claiming to be a woman. My message to Joe Biden and the federal government is that we will not comply. Thanks to the hard work of our legislators, Arkansas already has several common sense laws on the books that directly contradict President Biden's new Title IX rule. Those include Act 317, ensuring sex-segregated bathrooms and sleeping quarters, the Fairness in Women's Sports Act, which keeps men out of women's sports, and the Given Name Act, which protects educators' right to free speech when addressing a student. That's the law in Arkansas, and we will enforce it. In a moment, I'll sign an executive order reiterating our laws and instructing our educational institutions and the Arkansas Department of Education to follow them. And if President Biden threatens our state with loss of educational funding because we refuse to go along with his election year pandering, Arkansas will take the federal government to court. That's because this issue goes far beyond a single locker room or a missed scholarship. The truth is important. Biology is important. The differences between men and women are important. Title IX was created because of those fundamental truths, and for half a century has allowed women and girls to access colleges, sports, and scholarships that were previously unavailable. We won't let Biden threaten that, and we certainly will not let him erase our existence as women. Across the country, young women and girls are showing all of us how to be brave. They are leading this fight, and I'm happy to join them in standing up against the left's war on women. In West Virginia, 5 middle school girls were just banned from school sports when they refused to compete against a boy. Here in Arkansas, track athlete Ainsley Erzin joined a lawsuit against the NCAA to uphold fairness in women's sports. It is absurd that in America, we have adults like President Biden who are more afraid of their radical base than these young women. With us today, we have Riley Gaines, a 12-time All-American swimmer with 5 SEC titles and one of the bravest voices speaking out on this issue. If the weak men running the White House had half the courage of Riley, our country would be in a much better place. Despite the fact she swam for the wrong team, I love Riley. I love her voice. I'm going to turn it over to her to speak for a few moments, and then I'll come back up, take questions, and sign the executive order. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Governor Sanders. I would be remiss if I didn't start with saying you guys here in Arkansas just got a dang good basketball coach. So take that for what it's worth. But my name is Riley Gaines, and I am here today as an advisor for the Independent Women's Voice, a former collegiate athlete, and an advocate for women standing firmly against the erasure of women from our own domain. By now, my story is well known. In March of 2022, my teammates and I were forced to compete against a male named Leah Thomas, formerly Will Thomas. Thomas swam to a national title in the 500-yard freestyle, beating out the most impressive and accomplished female swimmers this world has ever seen, including Olympians, American record holders, by body lengths, might I add. Thomas and I raced in the 200 freestyle at this national championships, which ultimately resulted in a tie meaning, of course, we went the exact same time down to the 100th of a second. But despite tying, when we go behind the awards podium, the NCAA official looks at both Thomas and myself, Thomas towering over me at 6'4". This official says, "Great job, you two, but you tied. And we only have one trophy, so we're going to give the trophy to Leah. Sorry, Riley, you don't get one." And when I asked the dreaded question of why are you adamant on giving the trophy in the women's 200 freestyle to the man, he simply responded with, "Well, this is what we had been advised to do when photos were being taken. It's crucial that the trophy's in Leah's hands." Of course, reducing everything that we had worked our entire lives for down to a photo op to validate the feelings and the identity of a male at the expense of our own. But that's not all. In addition to being forced to give up our awards and our titles and our podium spots and our opportunities, we were also forced to share a locker room with Thomas. Again, a 6'4", 22-year-old man, fully intact and fully exposing himself, inches away from where we were simultaneously fully undressed. And let me be very clear here. We were not forewarned of this arrangement. We did not give our consent, and no one asked for our consent. Not so long ago, a decision by a university to allow such discriminatory behavior would have been understood as an obvious violation of Title IX, the federal civil rights law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in education, including college athletics. But now the Biden administration is attempting to rewrite Title IX, flipping the statute entirely on its head. Rather than protect female students, the Biden administration recently released an administrative rule that allows the discriminatory conduct female swimmers faced in 2022. Actually, it not only allows this discrimination, it compels it, it endorses it. More specifically, the new rule forces schools to let males replace women, to take our opportunities and our scholarships, and enter our private spaces, including locker rooms and bathrooms. It encourages schools to gaslight and emotionally blackmail women who do not consent to these violations, and to compel speech and punish students who express certain political viewpoints. Under this unconstitutional rule, a child's refusal to use preferred pronouns is grounds for sexual harassment. How Orwellian is that? Thankfully, we do have some tremendous leaders in our country, and today we have seen that on full display. Governor Huckabee Sanders is taking decisive action to protect Title IX, prevent unjust sex discrimination, save women's sports, and protect our privacy. You guys are lucky to have such a fierce leader in Arkansas because, believe it or not, only a handful of states actually define sex-based words like woman in law, even define sex as it stands. But today, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders will make history as the first female governor to enshrine in law definitions of sex that are based on science and common sense. In resisting President Biden's unlawful and discriminatory actions and signing this executive order inspired by the Independent Women's Voices Women's Bill of Rights, Governor Huckabee Sanders has proven herself a true champion of women. Thank you, Governor. Your leadership is why I wake up every day and continue to fight so hard for the right of every woman and the right to equal opportunity and access to single-sex spaces. I sincerely hope that your leadership will serve as an example and encourage other governors to also resist this illegal attempt to replace and erase women. Thank you.
Thank you, Riley, for being here and having the courage to share your story. That's not easy to do, and to stand in front of everybody like you've been doing on a national level to advocate for what's right and what's fair. So thank you. That was very inspirational. And also thank you, Governor Sanders, for getting ready to sign an executive order to protect the rights of Arkansans granted by existing state law. Arkansans know what's best for Arkansas, not DC. The department here fully believes that all students, no matter their background, ideology, opinions, or views, should be treated fairly and have access to a quality education. But those rights should not come at the expense of the safety, fairness, and rights of others. The Biden administration's changes to Title IX defy common sense and will put those ideals into jeopardy by eroding the very fabric of equality, fairness, and justice. When the U.S. Department of Education released its interpretation of Title IX, calling it a rule, our agency immediately began receiving inquiries from students, parents, and educators about how these concerning changes would impact the long-standing successful programs established in our state. We're thankful to Governor Sanders for putting a very clear and concise executive order that we're getting ready to sign into law. And it lets everyone know that we will not ignore Arkansas law. We will not let Washington undermine or erode our existing state laws, such as the Fairness of Women's Sports Act and the Give and Name Act. Despite attempts by the federal government to distract us from what's important and disrupt our efforts to keep students safe while protecting their privacy, we will continue to focus on these efforts and ensure that all students have access to a high-quality education, improving student achievement, and preparing students for life. So today I want students, parents, and educators to know that we hear you, we support you, and we will fight against the unjust agenda being pushed by Washington to water down 50 years of Title IX protections. And most importantly, we will continue to support and fight for the more than 37 female students that are participating in our sanctioned sports and activities in Arkansas schools, and the almost 1,500 competitive female athletes in Arkansas's colleges and universities. Thank you once again, Governor Sanders, for the executive order. I look forward to sharing with schools and educational institutions guidance on how to maintain the rights of Arkansans and continuing to support current Arkansas law.
Take a couple questions. As exactly what I would expect. We talk about one of the biggest issues facing our state, our country, focusing on protecting our students here in Arkansas. And you want to focus on the left's war against President Trump and the way that they are interfering in our election and trying to use the courts to do so. I've commented on that extensively in the past. I'm not going to do so again today. Andrew, I've answered your question. I don't have anything else to add. Sure, and I'll let Secretary Oliva jump in here. Actually, only one of these is a law. We aren't the group that has tried to circumvent the system like the Biden administration is doing through the new guidance that they are issuing on Title IX. We are enforcing and upholding state law, and we're asking that our institutions follow Arkansas law, and that is one of the reasons for the executive order today, is to provide that clarity and that instruction to our institutions across the state. I don't have any doubt that Arkansas would succeed in a lawsuit fighting back against the federal government when it came to this issue. We are very clear on this and have every confidence in our Attorney General and the team that would represent the state, and we have no concerns to think that we wouldn't be able to win in court.
So, on the implementation side, I can tell you, Josh, when districts call and ask questions, and we told them when the Biden administration put out the rule last summer to seek comment that we were going to comment in opposition, and we issued guidance to school districts then that we're going to stay the course and follow Arkansas law. School districts were relieved, and we're going to have follow-up conversations even as early today with our athletic association, our school board association, our administrative association to tell them, once again, stay the course. And our school districts, once again, will be relieved because they believe in the policies and procedures that we have in place, and they look forward to continuing implementing them with fidelity.
Sure. we'd be happy to join and have all 50 states. I think every single governor in the country should be standing up and fighting for the protection of women in their state, and we would happily join them in that process. Reinstating that we are going to continue to implement and uphold state law, and again, providing the clarity that we expect our institutions to follow the laws that our legislature has passed and that have been signed into by either myself or governors prior to me. All right, thanks. We will, at this time, sign the executive order. Thank you so much for being here.